the Russian MICEX and the MOEX. These are the Russian stock market indices. They're falling down. They're continuously crashing. The other day, I believe it was October 8th, it went down 4.05% in one day. And then the following day, another, I believe it was 1.89%. Overall, for the 3 year, it's at a 3-year low. At the 1 year, it's at a 1-year low. It's at a 3-month low, a 1-month low, a 1-week low, and an intraday low. So why is the stock market going down? My name is Mark Biernat. I'm a monetary economist. In this video, we're going to talk about why the Russian stock market is going down, why it's an indication that the economy is falling apart in Russia, how it's different than the U.S. stock market or any free market economy going down, because you've heard this, that the Russian economy is disintegrating, but I'm going to tell you why and how it's different. I have some ruble here too. More Russian ruble. If you guys think of any creative way for me to destroy it, let me know. Don't worry. Destroying ruble is not going to hurt the quantity theory of money, and the ruble value will go up because at a certain level it becomes infinitely valueless. The reason the U.S. stock market is different than the Russian stock market is U.S. stock market has free movement of labor and capital flows, where the valuations are generally, in the long run, connected to earnings expectations. It's an expectation-driven model, with earnings being the decisive factor for valuation. Okay, and that's why there's retained earnings and dividend payout, etc. Where in the Russian model, pre-2022, over 50% was foreign investment. Now, over 90% is internal investment. We're approaching 50% state-owned enterprises, SOEs, in Russia. Okay, it's coming pretty close. It's between 40 and 50%. So what has happened, as I've used this metaphor before, they've lifted themselves up by their own bootstraps. As foreign investors flee because of sanctions, restrictions, and legalities, the Russian government has put the National Wealth Fund into partially the stock market and these state-owned enterprises. It's basically funny, toxic accounting. That has sustained it to some extent, but it's like a slow leak on a boat been going down, and now it's bursting at the seams. What has happened? Well, the Russian central bank has kind of given some warning that minority shareholders in the Russian economy, what's left of them, these shares are being nationalized. It's going full Monty. It's going all the way towards, again, this state-owned, command and control, centralized Soviet-style system, and we know where that goes. So as minority shareholders flee or get nationalized, the reason is because the National Wealth Fund in the Russian government has a liquidity crisis. They're pulling it out for cash. They've suspended, to a large extent, dividends, forcing companies to put it back into retained earnings, just to conserve capital internally. There's been nationalization in the gold, UGC, the gold miner, and many other companies. So what we have is not a free market where valuations are determined. Again, the trend is your friend through expectations, and the stock market is a leading indicator of economic health in the free world. In Russia, it's really a barometer of the cash health in the Kremlin right now. And it's bursting at the seams. They're pulling it out of the National Wealth Fund. They're pulling it out of the stock market because they don't have cash to flit their operations war machine. It's a destruction of capital, and under normal circumstances in an economy, you have an interest rate in which entrepreneurs take it based on expectations of the profit rate or the natural rate. They'll determine their level of investment, lengthening the capital process, capital lengthening and broadening capital in creating productive goods, machine tool parts, and things that go reinvested back into the economy. Right now, we have a destruction of wealth through the war machine. It's a double-edged destruction of wealth because what is created or produced or imported is destroyed, but also it's an erosion of the capital that would be used for normal maintenance and reconstruction of a normal economy. So the Russian stock market, in a nutshell, is going down because the government is running out of money. It's 100%, almost 90%, over 90% internal. Small investors are fleeing because they don't have any money. Just look at the commodity price index. It's better than perhaps the CPI when it comes to economies that are more primary driven, that more rudimentary and primitive, like Russia. We got like this consumer basket CPI put together in the US and the West and similar types of things. But the commodity price index, like food, energy, oil, gold, is much more relevant. And when Russian consumers are out of cash liquidity, and I've made the argument that their disposable income is being eroded, and in a negative cash flow, happiness is a positive cash flow, they're taking every bit of money everywhere they can from under the mattress to sustain themselves. And this is what's also happening as a mirror in the Russian government. So although it may seem bleak sometimes in the West, because we read this Western media, how, bad things are happening over the skies of Ukraine, that's not necessarily, that's just because we're not in Russia. We don't feel it. In Russia, they can't pay the rent. They can't, oil prices are going up, gas prices, gas lines. What's going to happen in the winter with food? It's a very different story. We see a very one-sided story when it comes to the news and the economic events. But there's the other side that we don't see. And one thing that we can see is we can look at the ruble. And again, don't look at the ruble in relation to the dollar, which is two fiat currencies. It's like comparing water to water. Look at it to a commodity standard. You can look up what a commodity standard is. Gold, silver. And it's at the lowest point ever because gold is going through the roof. That has value. And, if you're a gold standard type person, you understand that when you're comparing currency, gold is the measure of value and not another currency because that's two relative aspects. But gold, compared to the ruble is at its lowest point. Pressure in the energy sector, thanks to Ukraine for pounding Russia. The infrastructure of Russia is crumbling and falling apart. You can say that about Ukraine, but Ukraine's different. Ukraine is a Western country. It will rebuild. In Poland, they rebuilt here. And not only when they rebuild in modern times compared to when they rebuild in old times, everything gets new and modernized. The trains, the buses, the infrastructure. When you're starting from, something from the 1800s and you're modernizing it, it's a little bit of a tricky situation. But if things, as they will be in Ukraine, when Ukraine wins and Russia loses, everything will be new. Ukraine will be the next economic miracle of Europe. It's the European way. Join, cooperate, integrate, support. It's the European values that we support. Russia, on the other hand, it's just continuing to crumble. And again, I don't think Russia should even exist. That's just my opinion. I mean, the Spanish Empire doesn't exist. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire doesn't exist. The Prussian Empire doesn't exist. The British Empire doesn't exist. The Roman Empire doesn't exist. Just because there's a multilingual collection of people, why not let it splinter into 1,000 city-states or whatever? It will make the world a better place. So the Russian stock market is going down, not because of earnings expectations, which are down anyway, and not because profit is down, because Russian government, Kremlin is moving to nationalize the economy. People are afraid. They're pulling money out. They're conserving your resources. The Kremlin is stealing money from the state-owned enterprises with this toxic, funny accounting anyway. And as the economic situation, I'll keep you abreast, continues, you're going to see a continued deterioration of the stock market in Russia. And that's an indication that the whole economy is collapsing. The whole Russian economy is falling apart. Russia will lose. Ukraine will win. My name is Mark Biernot. I'm a monetary economist. Have a beautiful day. Thank you very much.